everyone and welcome back to the channel Inner Vision Fitness with Harvey. If you're new to the channel then welcome along, and if you haven't already please look to my full disclaimer, and the link for this can be found in the description below, as very briefly this is purely an inspirational channel to motivate others the importance of fitness for both our physical and mental well-being, and this is done through my vision loss journey. So in this video, another good exercise that can be easily done in the home, and it is the plank. So a good core exercise, and as ever my content is always welcome to anyone that is interested, but I always have the visually impaired community in mind, so hopefully a lot of useful audio. So the plank exercise, hopefully you'll learn what it is, the muscle groups that it targets, and I will also add in the beginner variation to hopefully make it as inclusive as possible. As the plank can either be done on the knees, so keep the body straight from head to knees for the beginner variation, or keep the body straight from head to heel in the more intermediate level. So the plank is a good core strengthening exercise, and it's also good for posture, balance and stability, and also good for endurance. So the plank, good exercise, easily done in the home, and all that is needed is some safe, clear floor space. And I do this on rubber matting for safety and comfort. So I'll get started on the demonstrations, and I'll start off with the beginner variation before moving on to the more intermediate level. So, beginner plank. I'll firstly lower myself down onto the matting, onto my knees to begin. So I'm on my knees on the matting. Then I will lean forward and place my forearms onto the matting in front of me. So basically, from the palm of my hand sat on the mat, forearm to my elbow is just resting on the mat. So my forearms should be parallel to each other, shoulder width apart. My elbows will form a 90-degree angle, so the upper part of my arm up towards my shoulders will be upright, and in the exercise my elbows will land directly underneath my shoulders, and as before my hands can either just sit on the mat, palms, as I say, on the mat, nice and relaxed, or I can clasp my hand on both sides, but this is just a personal choice and whichever is more comfortable. So that's the first bit of the setup. So just trying to include as much information as I can to try and make it as helpful as possible. So beginner variation, still on the knees. So next setup is to align the body from head to knees, keeping the body straight, as I say, from head to knees, and my feet just remain relaxed behind me. So front part of my feet just sit on the floor behind me, and I squeeze the glutes, squeeze the core, and hold that static position. And for the visually impaired community, it can be a little bit more difficult getting into position. So it may be beneficial to maybe have an assistant just to guide us into position, and it's still something that I sometimes do, just to align everything up in position. So maybe a useful top tip. Now I will move on to the more intermediate plank, and I will also add in a few more key points on that one. So before I start, I will do another top tip, and it's good in the exercise to maybe set a timer. So 2020. I will just show an example for the visually impaired community of how I set the timer. So on my iPhone, I have the accessibility features turned on, such as the voiceover and Siri. So I can either use the Siri by saying, "Hey Siri," but I prefer using Siri by activating the Siri with the side button on the right of the phone, and this is just a bit more reliable. So I'm going to set quite a long timer to hopefully it won't interrupt the video. Set timer for 2 minutes and 30 seconds.
2 minutes and 30 seconds, starting now.
And as I always say, if it's just 15 seconds, 30 seconds, 60 seconds, it all depends on our capabilities and knowing our body. So I've set quite a lengthy timer, as I say, so hopefully it won't interrupt, but I will let it go off to show the demonstration. So intermediate plank. So forearms back into that position. So forearms parallel, shoulder width apart, elbows sat directly underneath my shoulders. But intermediate one, knees will now be off the ground. So I'm going to stretch my legs back, and I'm now contacting the floor with my toes. So toes tucked under, body straight this time from head to heel. So head aligned with my spine, back straight, hips neutral, hips not sagging, legs straight, and it's a good core exercise. And engage the core, engage the glutes, and the plank also engages other muscle groups, as a lot of muscles are working to support and stable the body throughout. So a lot of tension throughout the body, such as the chest, shoulders, arms, legs, lower back, and I have my feet together, a bit more challenging, but if I just have a small gap in my feet, it can just make it a little bit more easier, more stability. So just trying to include as much information as I can. So body straight and elbows underneath my shoulders, and when setting a timer in the exercise, the timer can feel like a lifetime. So the seconds feel like they're going on for ages in the exercise, but still, but there we go. So there's the timer all done. So I hope that you have found the plank exercise useful, and just to recap, so body straight from head to knees for the beginner variation, head to heel for the more intermediate, engage the core, engage the glutes, and a good core exercise, and can be easily done in the home. So any suggestions for maybe any future videos are always welcome, so please feel free to drop any suggestions in the comment section. Please like, share and subscribe. Hope you've enjoyed, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.